All right. So today, let's look into something, kind of different.
Okay.
Wilderness protection in Canada.
Okay.
You shared some sources with me about carrying restricted firearms
Yeah.
in remote areas, and I got to admit,
Yeah.
I'm pretty intrigued.
It
Yeah.
is. It's a fascinating area.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially because it's not the typical conversation about,
Right.
gun ownership.
Yeah.
We're talking about you're miles from civilization, you might be facing dangerous wildlife, and you need a way to protect yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where this Wilderness Authorization to Carry comes in.
Exactly.
This WATC.
The WAT.
Right.
Yes.
Seems like it's specifically, designed for that.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The WATC is a special permit that allows certain individuals to carry restricted firearms for protection against wild animals while working in remote areas.
So not just anyone who wants to, pack a pistol on their next camping trip.
Right.
There are specific criteria that you need to meet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The WATC is meant for people whose work legitimately puts them at risk of encountering dangerous wildlife.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
think licensed professional trappers, researchers working in remote areas, resource extraction workers, folks whose jobs take them deep into the wilderness.
And it's not enough to just say, hey, I work in the woods, I need a gun.
Yeah.
There's a whole application process.
Yeah, there is
Obviously.
a pretty thorough one.
Yeah.
You need to demonstrate that you have a valid possession and acquisition license for restricted firearms, also known as an RPAL.
Okay.
And then you have to prove you can handle a firearm safely and proficiently.
Right.
And that's where the proof of proficiency or POP exam comes in.
Okay, so tell me more about this POP exam.
Okay.
What does it involve?
It sounds pretty intense.
It definitely tests your skills.
Yes. Yeah.
The POP exam for the WATC requires you to shoot from both standing and kneeling positions at targets placed 5, 10, and 15 meters away.
Okay.
And for each position, you have 20 seconds to fire 6 rounds.
Wow, 20 seconds.
That's not a lot of time to get those shots off accurately.
It's not.
I'm guessing there's a minimum score you need to pass.
You bet. You need to hit at least 15 out of the 18 rounds fired for each shooting position.
Okay.
It's a challenging test, but it's there to make sure people carrying firearms in the wilderness are capable of doing so safely and accurately.
So how does BC Firearms Academy come into play here?
Hey.
It sounds like they could be a huge help with navigating all of this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
BC Firearms Academy specializes in this area.
Okay.
They offer training that prepares you for the WATC process, including helping you master the Canadian Restricted Firearms Safety course, which is crucial for obtaining that RPL we talked about earlier.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like having a guide
Yes.
to walk you through this complex world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say you ace the POP exam.
Okay.
What happens next?
Then you apply.
Do you just send in like a quick form and get your authorization?
No, you'll need to submit a specific application to the RCMP.
Okay. The RCMP 5491 application for authorization to carry restricted firearms and prohibited handguns.
Ah, yes, the infamous paperwork.
Yes.
I'm guessing this isn't just a one-page form.
It does require some effort.
Okay.
You'll need to provide supporting documentation too.
Okay.
If you're employed, you'll need confirmation from your employer outlining your job duties and why carrying a firearm for protection is necessary.
That makes sense. They want to make sure this isn't, being given out lightly.
Yes.
What if you're self-employed?
There are...
Or is there a different process?
Yes, there are slightly different requirements.
Okay.
You'll need to provide a copy of your municipal business operating license and a description of your work.
Okay.
And if you don't have a business license, you'll need a letter from your municipality confirming you're exempt, along with, you guessed it, a description of your work duties.
So no matter what, you need to clearly demonstrate why you need this authorization.
Correct.
And of course, there's a fee, right?
There is a non-refundable fee of $40 for a 1-year authorization. Okay. Small price to pay for peace of mind when you're working in potentially dangerous conditions.
Now, we've seen some information about a specific handgun, the Glock 20,
Yes.
being used for wilderness protection with the WATC. Is that a common choice? And is it the best option for everyone?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's one that leads to some interesting discussions.
Okay.
While the Glock 20 in 10mm auto is known for its accuracy and formidable force, it might not be the ideal choice for every person or situation.
Interesting.
And you might be surprised to learn that Canadian authorities don't actually endorse using handguns for protection against animals.
That is surprising. You'd think a handgun would be the most practical for wilderness protection, wouldn't you?
You'd think so.
Yeah.
But the reality is a bit more nuanced.
Okay.
Authorities strongly emphasize animal avoidance techniques as the first and most important line of defense.
That makes sense. It's always better to avoid an encounter in the first place than to have to use a firearm.
Right.
Correct.
But let's say avoiding the animal isn't an option.
Okay.
What then?
Well, if a firearm is deemed absolutely necessary,
Yeah.
they actually recommend a different type of firearm altogether.
Okay.
A defender-style shotgun.
A shotgun?
Yes.
That's interesting. What makes it a better option than a handgun? And what exactly is a defender-style shotgun?
Right.
I've never heard that term before.
It's a great question. It gets into the specifics of these firearms and how they function in a wilderness setting.
Okay.
We should definitely delve into that further after a short break. So you're curious about this defender-style shotgun. It's essentially a shorter-barreled shotgun, often pump-action, designed for close quarters defense. Authorities might see it as preferable to a handgun in certain wilderness contexts.
Okay, I'm starting to see the picture here.
Yeah.
Shorter barrel, easier to maneuver in dense forest. Pump action, probably reliable in tough conditions. But why would they recommend it over a handgun? Is it just a matter of size and maneuverability?
There's that, but there are also considerations about shot pattern and stopping power. A shotgun with the right load can create a wider spread of projectiles, increasing the chances of deterring a charging animal. However, it's important to remember that we're talking about deterrence, not hunting.
Right, the goal with the WATC is protection, not going after animals. But wouldn't that wider spread of shot also increase the risk of unintentionally harming the animal or even causing collateral damage?
That's a valid concern, and it's one of the reasons why firearm selection and training are so crucial. The type of ammunition you use in a shotgun can significantly impact the shot pattern and the potential for harm. You can choose loads specifically designed for animal deterrence with less penetration and a greater focus on creating noise and a visual deterrent.
So it's not just about picking any old shotgun and heading into the woods. There's a lot of thought that needs to go into the choice of firearm and ammunition based on the specific situation.
Exactly. And let's not forget the importance of marksmanship. Even with a shotgun, if you can't hit your target, you're not going to be effective in deterring a threat. That's why that POK exam we talked about is so essential. It ensures a certain level of proficiency.
And I imagine BC Firearms Academy can help with that aspect as well, right? They're not just about helping with the paperwork. They're actually providing the hands-on training you need to be safe and competent with whatever firearm you choose.
Absolutely. They have certified instructors who can guide you through the nuances of using different firearms for wilderness protection. They'll teach you about different shooting techniques, ammunition selection, and most importantly, safe handling practices.
So we've talked about the Defender-style shotgun, but what about the Glock 20? We saw that it's a popular choice for the WATC, but authorities don't necessarily endorse handguns for this purpose. Why is that?
It's a bit of a paradox, isn't it? The Glock 20, particularly in 10mm auto, is known for its power and accuracy. Some people might see it as a practical choice for wilderness protection because it's compact and easy to carry. But authorities seem to lean towards shotguns or non-restricted rifles for a few reasons.
Is it purely a matter of shot pattern and stopping power? I guess with a shotgun, even if you don't hit the animal directly, the sound and the spread of shot might be enough to scare it off without necessarily having to hit it with a bullet.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between effective deterrence and minimizing the potential for unintended harm.
So it sounds like choosing the right firearm for wilderness protection involves a lot of careful consideration. You need to think about the environment you'll be in, the potential threats you might encounter, and your own comfort and skill level with different firearms.
You've got it. And this is where an organization like BC Firearms Academy can be incredibly valuable. They can provide personalized guidance based on your individual needs and help you make an informed decision that aligns with both safety and the law.
It's all about empowering people to make responsible choices, isn't it?
Yeah.
The WATC is a serious privilege, and it comes with the responsibility of using that privilege wisely.
Couldn't agree more. It's about protecting yourself while also respecting the wilderness and the wildlife that inhabit it. Speaking of respect for wildlife, we've touched on the importance of animal avoidance techniques, but it's worth diving a little deeper into that aspect.
I'm all for that. It seems like preventing an encounter in the first place is the most ethical and effective approach to wilderness safety. What are some practical steps people can take to avoid those encounters?
That's a great question. It's really about being aware of your surroundings, understanding animal behavior, and taking steps to minimize your impact on their habitat. Let's talk about some specific strategies. When it comes to animal avoidance, knowledge is truly power. Understanding the behavior of animals you might encounter is crucial. For instance, knowing that bears are often attracted to strong scents means you should store your food and scented items properly and be extra cautious during berry season.
That's a good point. It's easy to forget that we're essentially visitors in their home when we're in the wilderness. So being mindful of their habits and respecting their space is key.
Precisely. And making noise while you're hiking can also help prevent surprise encounters. Most animals will avoid humans if they know we're around, so talking, singing, or even wearing a bear bell can make a difference.
I've heard about bear bells before. Do they really work? I've always wondered if they might actually attract bears out of curiosity.
That's a common concern, and there's some debate on their effectiveness. Some argue that a consistent, gentle jingling can alert animals to your presence without alarming them. Others believe it's more effective to make louder, more varied noises. Ultimately, the key is to be aware and predictable in your movements, giving animals a chance to move away.
It sounds like there's no foolproof method. But any effort to make your presence known is better than stumbling upon a bear unexpectedly.
Exactly. And remember, if you do encounter a potentially dangerous animal, staying calm and knowing how to react is essential. That might involve slowly backing away, making yourself appear larger, or using bear spray if necessary. Again, BC Firearms Academy can equip you with the knowledge and skills to handle these situations safely.
These seem to be a fantastic resource for anyone venturing into the Canadian wilderness, especially those considering a WATC. It's not just about the legalities and the technicalities, it's about fostering a mindset of respect and responsibility.
You've hit the nail on the head. The WEC is about empowering individuals to protect themselves, but it's also about promoting ethical behavior and a deep understanding of our place in the natural world.
So for our listeners who might be thinking, this WATC sounds interesting, maybe it's something I need for my work, what are some key takeaways they should keep in mind?
First and foremost, consider whether a WATC is truly necessary for your work and your safety. If you do decide to pursue it, research the requirements, thoroughly be prepared for a rigorous application process, and find a reputable training provider like BC Firearms Academy to guide you through the steps.
And remember, carrying a firearm for wilderness protection is not a right, it's a privilege. It comes with a heavy responsibility to use that firearm safely, ethically, and only as a last resort.
Absolutely. It's about being a responsible steward of the wilderness, understanding the impact of our actions, and prioritizing safety and respect for both ourselves and the natural world.
Well, there you have it. A deep dive into the Wilderness Authorization to carry in Canada. We've explored eligibility, the application process, firearm selection, the importance of training, and the ethical considerations of carrying a firearm for wilderness protection. Hopefully you're now well equipped to make informed decisions about your safety and your responsibilities in the Canadian wilderness.
And if you're considering applying for a WATC or just want to learn more about responsible firearm ownership, be sure to reach out to BC Firearms Academy. Their expertise and guidance can make all the difference in navigating this complex and important topic. Stay safe out there.